What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Yankees Avenue Show on the Yankees Avenue YouTube channel. As usual, I'm Patrick Hennessy. That's Dan Rourke. Dan, Yankees are down 2-0 in the ALCS now. How are we feeling?
Well, Pat, I'd be lying if I said I was doing good. I'm glad there's an off day today, kind of to be able to reset is nice. I'm usually very optimistic and confident with this team, but being down 2-0 is not fun. At the same time, I can't declare anything over until I see what happens in game 3 with Cole in the bump. But yeah, I can't say I'm doing well. How you doing?
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair assessment. Especially because we said it in the preview, right? We were like, you gotta win one of the two games in Houston. And the fact that both of these games were easily winnable. They were so winnable. Bro, the Yankees had them in the palm of their hands if they wanted to. They just didn't perform. They didn't execute. And because of that, now they're heading back to the Bronx in a 2-0 deficit. And it's frustrating. It's really frustrating, bro. Just because now it's like, um, my hand is hovering over the panic button, right? Like, like that Staples button. What was that Staples button?
Well, it was a that was easy button is what the
That was
Staples
easy.
button was.
So instead of that, it's like a panic button, and my hand's on top of it right now. And if the Yankees lose game 3 with Cole on the mound, I'm slamming it. So the Yankees aren't in a good situation right now, and it sucks because now like we start having like those doubts and we start second guessing ourselves, and it's a really dangerous situation to be in.
Yeah, no, it's very dangerous. And the way they lost too makes it all the more frustrating, especially because, when Bregman hit that 3-run bomb, often what I do when the Yankees are doing something that pisses me off, I will transfer my watching from the living room into my room. And that's what I did. That basically means that I am depressed right now. I don't have much hope for this game. And then they got those 2 runs back. And there was also some nice ass defense before that, which I was like, all right, vibes are kind of trending back up. Let's win a ball game tonight. So I thought we were actually going to maybe come out on top in game 2. The offense, man, is just a serious, serious problem. And I was so sure that ball that Judge hit was gone. I was positive off the bat. It just, maybe I'm like, I don't know, blinded by watching games in Yankee Stadium, which would have been gone in Yankee Stadium. Once that happened, man, I was like, damn, we're really going to go down 2-0. And like I said in the beginning, not confident, but it's not over. Cole is on the bump on Saturday. Yankee Stadium, win that game. I don't know how you're going to do it. Probably is going to have to be Cole shoves 8 innings, 1 run max. And then hopefully we can script a couple on the board. And then you got Nestor in game 4. So if there's any part of me that can be optimistic, it's that. But if you were to take the Yankee fan out of me, or even with the Yankee fan in me, I can't predict that the Yankees come out on top of the series with the way they look in the first 2 games.
I do want to talk about the first 2, and you did mention the offense, right? I don't know. It seems like every single season, the Yankees offense just completely collapses in the playoffs. It's like, regardless of the names that are in the order, it just seems like they can never get the job done when it counts the most. I mean, I think they're batting something like 136 as a collective in the ALCS. I mean, that's just inexcusable. And it's not like that we don't have the guys in there that can produce. I mean, sure, we might look back on this lineup in a couple of years, be like, yo, like our 6 through 9 was like Josh Donaldson, Oswald Peraza, Oswaldo Cabrera, Higgy. Like there was no way we were winning a World Series with that team. But right now I look at them and I think that they're definitely capable of putting up some numbers, and they're just not. So it's frustrating, especially because Houston hasn't looked all that great. Jose Altuve hasn't done anything. Yordan Alvarez hasn't done anything, and we're still getting beaten by them. Verlander was on the ropes in game 1. Pretty sure we had Valdez on the ropes in game 2 at some point as well. And then he kind of found his way to lock himself in. So it's really upsetting. And I don't even know what to say anymore about this team, dude. I think you kind of described it perfectly in the sense of I'm not confident that they're going to win this series, but it's not necessarily over, right? It's not over until the fat lady sings. And it won't be over in my eyes until they lose one more game. I'm fairly confident in calling the mound for game 3. I'm confident with Nestor on the mound for game 4. However, neither of those games are guaranteed wins, even in Yankee Stadium. And then also we have to realize, like, after Nestor in game 4, my faith in who's going to be on the mound severely diminishes, and who's going to be on the mound for Houston is going to be much better as well. So no matter what way you want to look at it, the Yankees are in a really, really bad spot right now.
It's funny because I almost look at these lineups as, in a way, similar in the sense that, we talked about in the preview episode, this Astros lineup, when you talk about the depth of it, it's probably the worst that we've faced in this 6-year
100%. I
rivalry,
agree.
right? And the main reason for that is you look at their bottom three: Diaz, McCormick, Maldonado. I mean, the fact that Maldonado, by the way, is even touching base this series is pathetic, but they're not all that good. You look at our bottom depth of the lineup, obviously, as we know, not that good. What's really going to make or break and has so far is if Judge, Stanton, and even yesterday Rizzo and then Gleyber Torres, if they don't do anything, we're screwed. They talk about,
Yeah.
oh, it's an all or nothing offense. No, it's a Judge, Stanton, Rizzo, Torres, or nothing offense. If those guys don't show up and produce, then you can pretty much chalk it up as a loss. I think our offense fares a little better in Yankee Stadium. Mentioned the Judge homer, that ball would have been gone. We got to figure out a way to hit the long ball, but get runners on base prior to hitting the long ball. And I don't know if that's going to take somebody from the bottom of the order stepping up. I'm not so sure I see that happening, whether it comes via the homer or getting lucky like we did in the 5th inning against Valdez, or 4th inning, whatever that was, 3rd inning. You just got to find a way, man. Scrape together 3 runs and hopefully the pitching can hold it in, which so far the pitching has been pretty damn solid. So,
Yeah. And you know what? Like, I think kind of what it comes down to is because now the Yankees are in the same exact situation they were in 2017, right? When they came back home, won 3 games, and then they went back to Houston. All they needed was 1, and they couldn't get the job done. So now I think we kind of have to look at it and kind of hope for like a 2017 situation, but better, and be able to cap it off in Houston this year. That's kind of like the best case scenario. The Yankees have to win all 3 at home. That's
you,
kind of like what I'm looking at.
it's sad too, bro, because it's like, it kind of just describes the way it's went with this core. It's like, oh, we've been here before. We've been down 2-0, but it's not like we're saying that in relation to a year where, oh, we came back and we won the series. It's like, no, we
Yeah.
were down 2-0 and hey, we came back up. We lost anyways, but hey, we've done it before. I
Yeah,
guess,
dude.
yeah,
It's
that
like,
is kind of the vibes for this, man. I mean, I do have faith going back to Yankee Stadium. It is a comforting feeling. I won't even lie. And that's not being like, trying to be optimistic or nothing. Like, I 100%, I feel most Yankee fans, even the most pessimistic of those, going back to Yankee Stadium, that's an advantage for us. If we do say take game 3, it's a 2-1 series. You would agree that entirely changes things for me. It really does.
yeah, for sure.
Because then you have a chance, especially with Nestor going in game 4. So, and I think we said this going in, man, like regardless of if we were up 2-0 or if we were down 2-0, whatever, game 3, I think, is what's going to determine not like the outcome of this series, but let's just say how far we go into the series.
Yeah, but let me ask you a question, right? Because I mean, we both agree all the time that like in a 7-game series, I would say like 95% of the time the better team wins, right?
Which is the Houston
And
Astros, yes.
yes, and the Houston Astros are the better team, the very clearly the better team in this scenario. Whether if that's pitching, defense, offense, whatever it is, they're the better team. So I guess like the way I'm kind of viewing it now is hypothetically, if the Yankees were to lose this series, which I'm expecting at this point, would you rather them losing 7 than them just like getting swept? Because if it's just me personally, I think I'd rather just get swept than like have like another game 7 heartbreak.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I would rather go 7 just because I like watching. It extends the season a few more days, which is
Yeah, but
nice
it
for
would
my
hurt
mental state.
so much more.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think I'd rather go 7 than get swept. I really am not trying to get swept. And you're absolutely right about, over 7-game series, a better team usually comes out on top, which is true. But if we come back tied up to 2-2, then all right, it's a best of 3 series with one of those games Garrett Cole is starting. We would have to get lucky. No, 100%. And that's clear. The Astros are the better team. I don't think any Yankee fan would dispute that. It's baseball, though, still. I mean, you're going to have to go out, tie this series up, which is still probably unlikely with the way the first 2 games went. But at that point, it's no longer like a best of 7. It's a best of 3. And you just got to hope that we catch a break.
Dude.
But
like just take a second right now. We're down 2-0 in the ALCS to the Astros. Like, I know the whole season we kind of like knew that we were on like a collision course for this, but like now to actually be here and the Yankees are already down 2-0, like with the snap of a finger. Like 2 days ago, we were just riding so high off of a game 5 victory over the Guardians. And now, just like that, we're down 2-0 in the ALCS, already questioning the future of the Yankee season. And it's looking very bleak at this point. So it sucks. I can't say that like we didn't necessarily expect it because like deep down, based on what we saw from Houston this year, based on what we saw from Houston in postseason past, we kind of we're optimistic in terms of the series, but we kind of knew what Houston was capable of, and we kind of knew the likely outcome. The series isn't over, but my faith in this team is quickly diminishing. And I will say that if the Yankees do lose this series, which, like I said, is highly likely at this point, everything needs to change in the offseason. Now, obviously, like, we'll break this down more in a future episode, but I'm going to need to see like sweeping changes. Now I'm talking GM, I'm talking manager, I'm talking lineup construction. I want to see an entirely different team on the field in 2023, because clearly what they're doing now just isn't working. And you're never going to beat the Houston Astros as currently constructed. You're just not. And they've proven it year after year.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm with you on that. Things would definitely have to change. I would want almost to reset and rebuild past what we did in 2017. I want to 100% keep Judge regardless how this postseason is going. He is the cornerstone of your franchise. Outside of that, I would be all in on, let's go all in on prospects.
Isn't that sad that we have to like think about that though? You know?
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I will say, and this isn't an excuse, and we can probably touch on the topic of excuses in a moment, but
yeah,
losing DJ LeMahieu, tough as hell. Losing Andrew Benintendi, tough as hell. Those are big losses, man. They really are.
Losing Matt Carpenter, tough as hell.
Losing Carpenter, tough as hell, 100%. So while there are definitely changes to be made, the Yankees caught a few bad breaks this season. I mean, this isn't the roster that was constructed to be facing the Houston Astros in the ALCS. It just plain and simple isn't. So, I mean, in another world, first two games may have been better if we had those guys. You can also look at Michael King pitching instead of Clark Schmidt. Injuries happen, though. I'm not going to use that as an excuse. There's a lot of questions. There for sure is. It's not quite yet time to answer those, but you're definitely right. I mean, whether we get swept or it does go 7 and we lose, there's going to be a lot of changes, at least on the field. Not so sure about
well,
off
at least
the field.
No, there should be changes. I'm
well,
not
on the field. I think there's
going
to be some changes on the field, even if Cashman comes back, even if Boone comes back, which I think he at least will. We won't talk about it now, but there's on the field stuff that I think definitely will change. I have faith in that if we get swept.
Yo, what's up, guys? Dan here. Brief interruption to let you know that our friends over at Best Jersey Throwbacks are having an insane deal. Buy 3, get 1 free sale for a limited time. They have all our favorite Yankee players like Aaron Judge, Derek Jeter, Oswaldo Cabrera, and many, many more. Also, have other MLB teams as well. So if you're looking for players like Shohei Ohtani, Julio Rodriguez, and many more, you also got NBA jerseys, NFL, NHL, and even custom jerseys as well. So why spend over $150 on jerseys when you can buy them for $50 or less at bestjerseythrowbacks.com and get 4 jerseys for the price of 1? They provide an affordable buying experience for fans passionate about their favorite players and teams. Your purchase also comes with a tracking number and 24-hour customer service. Click the link in the description to check them out. You will not regret it or lose.
One thing that I do want to talk about from last night, it's kind of, I guess, the last point that we could touch on from game 2, and I guess series as a whole so far. The Yankees' refusal to take accountability. And it's also just a piss poor mentality when it comes to losing these 2 games by a couple of guys, right? I mean, I know Judge, for example, I kind of loved what he said when he was asked about like that warning track shot that we thought almost got out. He said, not with the way the wind was playing, I hit it to the wrong part of the park for sure. I mean, like, that's just taking accountability, right? Like, I didn't get the job done.
Which Judge
not
always
blaming
is
it on anything else. Like, Judge is the guy. And also, I don't know if you saw that interview, but it was kind of like very like 2019 Cole-esque to me, with like Judge had like a different hat on. Remember when Cole put like the Boris hat on right after the game? But I don't know if you saw Luis Severino's comment regarding Alex Bregman's 3-run home run. I think he said something along the lines of, oh, that ball had an exit velocity of like 89 miles per hour, or like Judge's was like 109. Like he got lucky or whatever. That's an insane thing to say. And then also Boone regarding that, he's like, oh, the roof being open killed us, like whatever. So I'm not a fan of excuses, especially in the postseason, especially when it comes to like things like calling the Astros lucky, a team that's owned us for the past decade. At this point, they're clearly not lucky. They're a very good baseball team. Sevy, if you're gonna say anything, just be like, he beat me.
Yes,
that would just be a very solid thing to say in that situation. For Boone, rather than like being like, oh, the roof being open killed us, just be like, no, like as a whole, our offense needs to improve, and that would be that. I'm not a fan of excuses. I'm not a fan of calling them lucky. At some point, this team needs to take accountability for a piss poor performance in Houston.
Yeah, first on Boone, there's a lot of things to criticize him for in the series. He's given you plenty of reason to do so. Last night, I think that's one of those quotes, not a big deal. He was asked a question, answered it. It got put on Twitter, and of course, that quote's going to go big. Sevy's, though, it was really bad. Like you said, you just have to say he beat me, and that's plain and simple. Bringing up exit velocity is a joke. I mean, it's not like the ultimate determination of like if a ball is going out or not. I mean, Bregman, sure, he hit the ball 91 miles an hour. The shit was crushed. I mean, right off the bat, I don't know if it was obvious. I mean, when he made contact on that ball, like, all right, 3-0 Astros, that sucks. Like I said before, I thought Judge is going out too. That's just baseball. That shit happens. And regardless if you actually think that, you should know, like optic wise, that it's not going to go well. You know, like you may truly believe in your heart that, you know, you got screwed over in that Bregman home run and we got screwed over on the Judge homer. But like you should be able to take some time and think like, all right, how is this going to come across on social media? And how is this going to come across just in general to the media? And not well. I mean, that's kind of, I feel like outside of the actual final score of the game, that was the talk of Yankees Twitter last night was the excuses that were brought up from this team. The rest of the guys are pretty solid. Like you mentioned, Judd was good. Stanton was good. And there's been a couple, I think, solid post-game interviews. Like Carr from the other day, what he said.
Always good.
Well, Stanton's, he took like a fucking class on that or something because he's got this shit down. He really does. But at the same time, it's reasonable to bring it up because it absolutely is a story. But it's annoying that it has to be brought up because that's not what I care about. You know, like I don't care about even the accountability or just really any post-game question because you just have to play better.
Yeah, but I will say, like you say, like you don't really care about stuff like that, like them taking accountability or whatnot. See, but I do because I think stuff like that leads to on-field performance. Because here's my logic, right? If you have guys being like, "Oh, the Astros just got lucky," or like we lost because the roof was open, then it's a mental thing for them, right? And they're just gonna like keep doing the same thing just because they don't think that there's a problem, right? Like they think they're just losing because of bad luck, or they're losing because of factors that don't involve them. At some point, if the team as a whole is like, yo, we need to be better, and we're not losing because of any other factors besides ourselves, then everyone is able to take a step up. By blaming it on other factors, it's like, who's taking a step up in that case?
I disagree. I think it just makes the situation worse. I don't look at it as it translates necessarily to on-field performance because, I mean, Sevy's a dog. He's a baller. He just gave up a 3-run shot to Bregman. I just think it's already a shitty situation. You make it worse by giving these crappy post-game interviews. And whether it's on the top of accountability or I feel like no matter what, man, like a lot of times these post-game interviews, like I'll read the quote and it just, even it could be something positive. It's like, man, that came out a little bit funky. Like, is that what we should have said? And it's funny too, because the Yankees, they really pride themselves on their like PR preparation with these players from the minute they're signed, like Severino, for example, when they're signed at 16, like they get this shit in their heads right away on how to handle the press. Right. So it is kind of odd that, and that's once again, I want to like the Boone quote, whatever. Sevy mentioning bringing up exit velocity in a post game where you just lost and you gave up whatever the mile an hour was on it. That was a bomb that you gave up to Bregman, a no doubter.
But yo, I feel like that this is something that like is happening a lot more often than it has in the past lately. I don't know if you saw, but like Harrison Bader found out that he was leading off from Lauren Shahadi in the tunnels and in the clubhouse or whatever. That's insane to me that like he's not informed that he's leading off before. And then like Clay Holmes, for example, right? Like he didn't know that he was unavailable that night in Cleveland. So it's just like
bad.
at some point, everybody on the team, like there seems like there's a lack of communication all around. And even Sevy had some pretty like unhinged things to say about Boone after that. What was it? Game 3 in Cleveland.
Game 3 of the ALDS.
So it's like for some reason lately we've been seeming to get a lot of quotes into the media that just don't seem like very Yankee-like. It seems like there's a lot of disorder, dysfunction, and maybe like unprofessionalism in a way.
Yeah, no, they're definitely not doing themselves any favors with the way they're coming across. I agree. But it just, I don't equate it to the on the field performance. I think they're two separate things, which almost makes it.
No,
it makes
but
it
when
worse.
they're not performing on the field, it makes that stuff stand out 10,000 times.
That's what I was just about to say. Yeah. Like they're already such bad problems on the field that you're not doing yourself any favors when you come across like a total clown in the post game trying to make excuses that the Astros got lucky. It's just plain and simple is dumb. You look very, very stupid. Yeah. But getting past that, I mean, you just have to find a way to play better or else none of this is going to matter. I mean, like you could have the shittiest post-game interviews in the world, good or bad. Ultimately, what us Yankee fans are going to care about is the performance on the field. And regardless of like the final score, just the bats that we've been seeing. And man, I never am going to question like motivation or anything like that, because obviously they want to win. You're on a field playing against 26 other guys. Like you're going to have the motivation to win. But the Astros are just better at it, man. They really are. Like they just find a way to get it done. That's what I was trying to avoid saying, because I feel like we say that way too much in sports, but like with the lack of a better way to explain it, like that's the way it comes across. You know, it just seems like they were just built for this more than we were, man. And if this series finishes the way it's headed right now, which once again, it's not over, but if it does finish this way, like I will look at this core, just be like, they just mentally didn't have it, man. Because this will be the conclusion, man. Like this is it. If we don't do it this year, like that's a bow on. I was saying going into this year that this is the final run for the Baby Bombers. It's closing quick. It really is. And yeah, if to put a bow on it, a very mentally weak core is the way I would describe it. If this is how it's going to all be finished.
When we say a mentally weak core, for me, that reflects on management. That reflects on leadership. Especially when Boone came in, this team was like coming off like a pretty mentally strong season. In terms of like sticking up for the manager, down 2-0 in the ALDS, coming back down 2-0 in the ALCS, pushing that to Game 7 with a team that wasn't even supposed to be there, and then kind of like being extremely mentally weak every single season after that, and not even getting to an ALCS Game 7. But one thing that I do want to say, because this is kind of a long episode, so we should probably wrap things up soon. But one comparison that I can make, and like there's obviously no rhyme or reason to this, it's just kind of fun to evaluate. I'm kind of comparing this Yankees postseason so far to the 2012 postseason. It felt like the end of an era type thing, right? Like 2012 kind of felt like the end of that era. Yeah. This kind of feels like the end of the Baby Bomber era. You have the ALDS where it was pushed to 5 games with a mediocre team, right? And then going into the ALCS, we wanted revenge against the team that, we thought we were finally going to beat, which was the Tigers in that scenario. And then we ended up getting crushed by them. And then after 2012, it was kind of like a shift in Yankee
transition
culture.
Period. Yeah.
It was a transition period. So I feel like this could be one of those years, especially if the Yankees end up getting swept like they did in 2012. Hopefully, like Judge doesn't break his leg like Jeter did that year. But I will say, I'm kind of getting those vibes.
I disagree there. I don't really think they're all that comparable, mainly because the heartbreak would be so much more with this. I mean, one, that core already won in 2009, so like you at least hang your hat on that. You compare the Tigers to the Astros. I mean, we were just looking at the prior ALDS in 2011 from the year before. I didn't look at that as some huge rivalry. Obviously, I wanted to beat them. I wasn't a fan of that team. It's so much different, though, with this Houston Astros team. I mean, I talked about it on the Game 1 After Show episode. I'll talk about it now. Just seeing them, and after Bregman hit that homer, for example, like I want to beat them so bad. And when you go down 2-0 and you realize that it might happen again to where they eliminate us from the playoffs, I don't know what I'll do. I don't know what I'll do, and what's like the
you've been
course
asking
of action
for this though, Dan. Like you've been
hell yeah,
begging
hell
for
yeah.
the
And
Astros
what
in the
I've been
playoffs.
saying is the risk and the reward very, very high. Like if we come out on top, which is still possible, that would be huge for this fan base. Like you cannot talk about Aaron Judge's career or my Yankee fandom era without mentioning a very large chapter about the Houston Astros, right? And yeah, on the flip side, if they beat us, which is they're on their way to doing, that will be tragic. A big ass tragedy if that happens. This is a dark time, man. Like this is probably if you take, let's say after 2012, so 2013 through 2022, the way it's looking right now, the worst 10-year period in Yankees franchise history. It really is. No, easily 100%. I mean, outside of the early years, the Highlanders in the 80s, yes, but we didn't win a World Series in that time, same as this past 10 years, but we were still, I mean, it was kind of similar vibes. We had actually the best record in baseball in the 80s, but we didn't win a World Series. So at the very least, I think it was equivalent. And if you talk about expectations that we had since 2017 through now and that not come to fruition, I'm confident actually. This is the worst. This will go down as the worst 10-year period in the history of this fucking franchise. Which and it just fair. So happens to be pretty much right when I started watching baseball. I got into baseball around like casually 2009, watching the playoffs with my dad. Hardcore though, around 2011, I was watching day in and day out. We haven't been rewarded, man. We've been rewarded with nice regular seasons and some couple ALDSs.
Who takes the blame though?
ultimately I'll always put it on the
Shouldn't it be
players.
on Cashman?
So yes, that's who it would be on. Is Cashman? Is that he hasn't had a good enough roster to win a World Series, or at least a roster that just
So
hasn't
how
done
does
it.
he still have a job? How is his job still so secure?
Well, you know where I stand. I don't think he should come back if we get bounced. I think he will though, because
But
him
he
and Steinbrenner
will.
are
No,
boys.
but we know he will.
So there's nothing we can do about it. If that's what's going to happen, I don't know, because I think Hal Steinbrenner seems like a great guy, nice dude. I don't think he has much of a backbone. I think if George had the biggest backbone of all time, I think Hal's got the total opposite, and he has an inward backbone, to be honest. So I don't know what's going to happen.
Like
Apparently,
inverted.
sure. All right, listen, I didn't go to college. You did. We get it. Hal and Cashman are boys. Apparently, he's like a family member. If that's what gets in the way of this Yankee team finally getting over the hump, I guess we just got to accept it. Like I always say, hey, I'll be there opening day next year. But it's very frustrating watching this team. And I want to say, like, I don't know how much more of it I could take. I'll keep taking it because I'm a fucking bitch. But
Dude, because it's so toxic. It's like we keep getting back with the girl that's cheated on us so many times before, bro.
You know.
Like thinking it's gonna be different this time.
yeah,
And it's never different. Like, why do we keep wanting the Houston Astros, thinking that we're finally gonna overcome them? And it just seems like we never do, bro.
you're right. No, you're absolutely right. And I
No,
want to.
no, but
This
it's
is the
not
last
only
thing I'll
that.
say.
I hate to interrupt you. I'm so sorry, Dan. I love you. I love you with all
Tell
my
me
heart.
more.
But but we do this with every single team, dude.
I know.
Like it's
I know.
not only a Houston Astros thing. It's not like it's just the Astros that owned us. It's every single season we go into the playoffs begging for a team.
But that's just a
right?
fan
Whether
base
if
thing.
it's
Like
Tampa
ultimately
or
that doesn't mean
Boston
anything. Like
or
the Yankees.
Houston.
Yeah, but the Yankees, they didn't get bounced by Boston 18 because we chanted we want Boston. Same with Tampa. Like that stuff doesn't ultimately matter. Like what matters is the
No,
players
I'm saying
on
it's
the
the fact
field.
that you couldn't get past them.
No, I understand, but there's fan base and then there's team. And ultimately what the problem is here is that the team just isn't good enough. I'm on a backtrack a little bit. With DJ and Benintendi on the roster, like this team was capable of winning World Series, and they're definitely a good team. But at some point, man, like not only you have to go into the offseason designing obviously a World Series caliber team, but you have to literally like create it to beat the Houston Astros with the Houston Astros in mind. Like think of it. How does this stack up in the ALCS against the Astros? And if you don't have a roster that's good enough, all right, go spend another $50 million in free agency and figure out a way to make it good enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But also, I don't even think it's that. I think it's just like kind of getting like the right guys. I think it goes beyond like advanced numbers. And I think that's kind of like what
I'm
the
not even
Yankees
talking
have
about
only
advanced
been
numbers.
looking at. No. But what I'm saying is I think that's been the Yankees' philosophy the last couple of years. Like they looked at guys like Donaldson and IKF as like, yo, like stat darlings. Meanwhile, like a guy like Harrison Bader, I don't think like the offensive advanced analytics really like saw him as much value. But it's like he's the type of guy who shows up in the postseason. So I don't know. I think the philosophy just maybe needs to be
I think it's
adjusted.
as
But also
simple
at the
as
same
they
time,
just need to get better players. And that's let me put a bow on my whole thought process on here because this is why the blame falls on Cashman. But regardless of that, the Yankees, the problem with this era and just this team in general is they don't have enough good players. They have many great players. And once again, they're a good team. They're a really good team, but they don't have players that stack up against what the Houston Astros have put up the last few years. They just really don't.
I know, but no, but we do have players that just don't show up in the playoffs. Like Gleyber Torres, bro. Like he's a good player, a really good player.
He is.
He hasn't shown up. We have other good players.
Our
as well.
top
Like,
five
you look
is
at
good.
postseasons
I'm not mad at the roster construction. If you were to look at the lineup of the our 1 through 5 versus the Astros 1 through 5, 100% can compete. And I'm not criticizing those guys at all, at least them being on the team. They haven't necessarily shown up. Some of them, Judge, Glaber so far this year. They're fine. That's not at all what I'm talking about. But you do need a 6 through 9. And our 6 through 9 is, quite frankly, it's been pathetic so far this postseason. And that's not blaming individual guys. I mean, Oswald Cabrera, rookie. Oswald Peraza, rookie. That's fine. It falls on Brian Cashman because we didn't have to be in this spot.
And it sucks that like we're like down nothing. We're down 2-0 in the ALCS. And now we kind of like for majority of this episode, we're talking about like future roster construction. And it sucks because at this point we should be able to like focus on like the series that we have right now. But the fact that vibes are so low where it's like I'm like questioning the future of this team. It literally sucks, bro.
It sucks. It does.
I'm over it.
Let's wrap it up. But also remember, it is still a series. It 100% is. I mean, it's 2-0. We're not down 3-0.
Like
When it still does to me, like I feel like I'm still watching October baseball right now. Like I don't feel
bro, because I'm gonna get roped back. They're gonna win on Saturday. I'm gonna get roped.
Good,
back
yo. That's
in.
baseball. That's how it works. It's sports. You know, I mean, it's not like we're down 3-0 right now. We're down 2-0. Win Saturday, all right, 2-1. Then you got Nets on the bump in game 4. Hell, we win that game 2-2. Once again, best of 3. Anything can happen. Okay. I'm not necessarily confident. No, I'm not. I think the Astros will come out on top. But to say that we don't have a chance would be ridiculous. Not that you're saying that. I know you're saying we have a chance. But in general, there's still reason to turn the TV on at 5 o'clock on Saturday with Garrett Cole on the bump.
No, 100%. I just think it's going to be really funny if they do end up coming back. Because I'm like,
I want the
postseason's
game
been
7.
a roller coaster.
I'd rather, to answer your question again before, I'd rather go to 7 games and get swept.
I would.
Getting swept would be fucking, that would be, man, nail in the coffin.
Well, because I'm the type of person, I'd rather lose 8-0 than 2-1.
Nah. I hear that logic on the 8-0 thing. Like in game 7, I'd rather lose 8-0 than lose 2-1. But getting swept is embarrassing. No, I'm with you.
Like,
I agree with you. I'd rather lose 8-0 than lose 2-1.
So you wouldn't have like preferred like a 2018 ALDS exit than like 2019 ALCS exit when it's like, yo, vibes were so high after the DJ, and let's get walked off by Altuve.
No. If we go on to lose a series and I could go back in time and reverse it, I would have rather lost Cleveland. But that's an individual instance against, because it's the Astros.
Yeah, on the opposite.
If we were like, say we were facing the Mariners, no, I'd rather lose in the ALCS. But I would, if I could go back in hindsight, if we lose the series, yeah, I would have rather lost to Cleveland than Houston.
Yo, you know what kind of sucks?
What?
I feel like Cleveland might have won a game by now. Like they might have won one of these 2 games.
We're gonna win a game. We're not gonna get swept. We're gonna win.
No, but I'm saying like I feel like Cleveland might have put up a better fight so far. But
I don't think so. We're better than Cleveland. We're better than Cleveland.
I know, but bro, their offense is like a little dinky, like blink, blink.
Well, that's all fake shit though. It doesn't really mean anything. All right, that's gonna do this episode. Good app. I mean, hell, I think we got all our thoughts out. That's for sure. What we got, like probably 30 minutes at least. Oh man, somebody's parallel parking right in front of my car.
People kind of like the longer episodes. Yo, I peeped some of the comments. People were like, "Yeah, we kind of like the long ones."
Don't get used
Shout
to it,
you guys, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode. Also, working on a bug with the podcast shit. I'm not sure what's good with that. Libsyn has been giving me trouble. 1, I forgot my password. 2, they're trying to make like 2-factor authenticate. So the podcast people working on it. I hope we can have that fixed soon. Drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe if you are new. See you guys next time. Why are you doing, Joe? That's the face you made everybody screenshot and tweet at me today. Yeah. All right, yo. That'll do it. See you guys next time. Let's go, Yankees.